Alex Albon is showing a great form in qualifying for the whole 2023 season, but of course his qualifying in Zandvoort is the best so far. P4 in the final standing, winning Q1 and showing a great driving in wet conditions. Only the god himself could beat Alex Albon under the rain. So let's break down his lap in Q1, which brought him to the top of the leaderboard. We'll compare it to Max Verstappen's lap. Alex Albon will be shown here, Max Verstappen is here, but I want to start a bit before the start-finish line, because I noticed an interesting event.
Hamilton at 1.
Racing engineer tells him that Hamilton is on his back foot, and he immediately starts checking his right mirror and even crossing the start-finish line way towards the inside to the right side. I don't really know what he tried to do. Maybe not to give Lewis a slipstream, maybe he was expecting it to try something around the outside, but this info bothered him so much that he actually had a couple of bad mini sectors in the beginning of the lap, because the final difference was only 26 thousandths of a second. But let's dive into direct comparison itself. The cross start finish line, Max is still checking his mirrors, and the braking zone starts immediately, and we see them both actually starting braking not on the rubbered line, but Max is still too narrow on the entrance to the corner, which will actually cost him. We see they are crossing the rubber, and Max even faces a slight oversteer, a slight loss of traction, because his radius was a bit narrower than Albon's radius, so the risk of losing the car was higher. So he should lose his time just a little bit, and we see them both, of course, completely avoiding the dry line, avoiding the apex and the regular racing line. But as I told you in my previous breakdown of Belgium GP, according to modern F1 standards, you have to know this. You have to know how to drive under wet conditions. We see Max is still checking his mirrors for Lewis, but I digress, let's move forward. We see now Alex is actually a bit forward, he is already here, and we see he is starting braking somewhere at around here. It's actually hard to compare braking points, because Max Verstappen has a driver's eye point of view, but it will change soon, so do not worry about it. They do not touch the curb on the left, on the right, and we see Max was able actually to carry a bit more speed throughout turns 2 and 3 and maybe get back all the time he lost in turn 1. Now they enter turn 3, and the line is pretty similar to the dry line, with the only exception being drivers try to avoid the curbing as a whole, and also they try to avoid this painted part of a circuit because it might be slippery. Otherwise, trajectories are quite similar. So let's move on. Here is a funny part, actually for first time of me doing this analysis, we see each driver twice. Max Verstappen here and Max Verstappen here. Time traveling, the thing is Max is now on a preparing lap, and the lap we see here will actually be his next lap. But we move on. And here starts the fast sweeping section, left, right corners, and here we see the finish of the first sector. And despite not having his personal best, Max is still a bit faster than Alex Albon. The whole difference was done on the last part of a sector, which is basically a straight line. So let's drag Albon just a bit towards. And we see that for this turn Alex Albon will brake earlier than Max Verstappen, pretty unusual thing for our analysis. See Max using a bit more trail braking and having way more speed through the corner. The difference is nearly 10 km per hour, which is actually huge. But here Max drifts a bit wide, picks up some standing water from around here, which should compromise his exit out of the corner, and we see actually Alex Albon managed to get close. Now Max Verstappen is somewhere at around here, and we see them both starting braking at nearly exact same time, but Max being a bit ahead, so once again Max is braking later than the person we compare him to, which is quite an unusual happening. So they brake, and for this turn actually nothing different you can do in terms of wet driving because the nature of the corner itself. And once again, for the third time, for this braking point, we see that Max is actually braking a bit later than Alex Albon. 3-0 for now, but now I want to draw your attention to the lines that drivers will pick in the very next corner. So they enter, and you should just see how wide are they on the exit, and Alex Albon is even a bit wider than Max Verstappen. It looks like he tries to touch the right part of a circuit, following the main principle of driving in rain, avoiding the rubber. And the main thing around this corner is that even in Q3, when the track was dry enough, when drivers were using slick tires, everyone was still choosing the outer line. Why it happened? Because for previous two sessions, Q1 and Q2, the majority of drivers were choosing the right line throughout this corner, were not choosing the drying line throughout this corner, which resulted in this part of a circuit drying up way quicker than this part of a circuit, and even in those slick conditions, it was still more beneficial to use the wet line. And this is exactly what I'm talking about when I say that the level of wet driving of F1 grew a lot throughout previous maybe 5 years. You should remember that only in 2016 Max Verstappen doing this wet overtake on the outer line on Nico Rosberg gave him a genius status. At that time only a few drivers on racing grid actually remembered that you have to choose a different line when you race under the rain. As for now, if you do not remember that, if you cannot perform the action, you are in a severe disadvantage. Just look at Sergio Perez. But I digressed a little bit. So let's move forward, and we see actually Alex being a bit more aggressive with his throttle input. We see the result, he's already ahead. He managed to regain all of the time lost in the previous corners. So they enter the back straight, and here is the finish of the second sector. We see Alex being 0.03 of a second faster than Max Verstappen. The funny part is that they are dead even on the time right now. So the last sector will decide everything, and we see that for the first time during this lap Alex Albon will brake later than Max Verstappen, and the difference is quite huge. And I actually agree with Alex Albon braking late here. We see him braking as late as possible, just flying into this corner. And it is the right choice, because previously you had a long straight, you actually want to brake as late as possible to bring in as much speed as possible. Yes, you are going to hurt your exit out of this corner, but the thing is there is no straight after this corner, because turn 11 goes immediately into turn 12, so Alex Albon makes the right choice, in my opinion. And we see the results. Actually, for now he is quite ahead of Max Verstappen, but he would be too brave with his throttle work. He will face quite a huge oversteer moment. Max Verstappen gained all his time lost back on this short straight. Now the final, the ultimate corner. Once again Alex Albon is braking later, and for now actually I think it's a wrong choice, because the next straight is quite longer than the previous one. But nevertheless, they brake. Once again, they completely avoid the apex, they completely avoid the rubber line. We see Max being way faster on the exit, but he will pay his price for it, because as soon as he touches the curb, he faces an oversteer moment and compromises the whole following straight. So yeah, I bet two main mistakes of Max Verstappen was paying too much attention to Lewis Hamilton in the beginning of the lap, and this mistake in the last corner, which costed him quite enough time in the last sector. And we see Alex Albon is actually putting the best sector 3, all due to the good braking in turn 11. If you liked the video, consider subscribing to the channel, leaving a like, leaving a comment. See you soon.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey.